There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the EBP Network, Rumble X, YouTube. Check us out. Subscribe, type in iNewsWire on that. Man, what a day! Fraud investigations going up thy kazoo, as we say. It's absolutely almost stunning. The amount of fraud from coast to coast and everywhere in between that's going on. LA cop was on disability, was seen, it appears, at Lake Elsinore Skydive. Some of these guys, I don't know. You know, cameras are everywhere, it seems. I don't know why they think they can get away with that. Sex offender running for city council. We'll have that story in a bit. On top of the terrific story of the extreme child abuser who's being let out on parole. It gets more bizarre every day. We'll have an update on the Moreno Valley Mall. They're going to have a meeting at the city council here right after the show at 6 o'clock on the closing of the mall. And the crime syndicate, Moreno Valley Unified, appointed Justin Jackson to fill the vacancy that was created by the resignation of C.J. Johnson ahead. But this is a bizarre story. 2 arrested for ransacking and stealing out of a truck stuck in traffic in Chino. Bizarre story going on. Let's see if the CBS 2 report will play. Here we go.
He's robbing a semi-truck driver while he was stopped at a red light.
CBS LA's Leslie Marin shows us how they pulled it off and how they got caught.
Watch as a semi-truck makes its way to the intersection of Central Avenue and Chino Hills Parkway in Chino Friday afternoon. But what looks normal is not. Police say inside the car, in front and behind the truck, are robbery suspects. In under a minute, police say the suspects cut a deadbolt, opened the back of the truck, took what they wanted, and took off.
This crime happens every day, unfortunately.
Gerardo Pachuca is a retired detective with the LA Sheriff's Cargo Criminal Apprehension Team. He says the crime isn't new, but the criminals are getting more brazen.
And they're resorting to trying to cut truck drivers off on the roadways, hijacking them at gunpoint, doing all kinds of different violent tactics to steal what they want.
This is absolutely bizarre. You come up with, you're sitting there at the stoplight, no less, and thieves are taking, in a minute, taking stuff out of your truck. I mean, what is this world coming to? There you see the contents of things flying out.
You know, police called the crime sophisticated and believe it was pulled off by an organized crime crew. Crews that are being seen up and down the state, according to Pachuca.
You have organized crime groups who are coming in from out of the country, and then they have a crew of
Whoa, 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 whoa. Organized crime groups coming from out of the country? He didn't say that. And it's happening up and down the state. This is absolutely beyond surreal, as they say. Of course, the left, no, this never happens. You know, it's those mean white hillbillies make all this stuff up. I don't think this guy reporting. Does that look like an evil white hillbilly to you? He's the one that's telling you this, folks. Here we go.
times more where they work like an assembly line, and they'll empty out 3 or 4 pallets in a matter of minutes.
Police say the suspects did take off with $7,000 in computer equipment, but didn't get far. With the help of the department's real-time crime center, officers located the suspects as they were getting on the 60 freeway. You can see as the suspects are told to put their hands up and eventually arrested.
It's very good to see them get caught.
For Pachuca, who now works with trucking companies to protect their drivers, this is a win for all those working hard on the roads.
Being aware of your surroundings, you'll be able to pick them off and be able to prevent some of these thefts.
Pachuca says a lot of the stolen merchandise does end up on the black market. As for the crime here in Chino, well, police say they're still looking for 2 or 3 suspects that took off.
So this is very extremely interesting. This goes beyond anything that we've ever been told. We've all been told this doesn't happen. No, that anybody coming in from the country, there's no illegal crime cartels running in the U.S. They're not stealing. They come in and they're just absolutely best. Even if they're truck drivers, they would never cause an accident or kill anybody or anything. This stuff, the evidence is clearly pointing in the opposite direction. It's becoming so overwhelming. You cannot ignore it. Wanted to hit on this from Adam Housley, excuse me. He was a former Fox reporter, and then he's doing independent journalism now. He reported on this fraud, the first of the fraud mentions. He reported on the COVID fraud, especially the unemployment fraud in California. He's actually posted it now, finally. COVID fraud investigators in California told me the state is broken and has done nothing to help the investigation. In fact, it has hindered it significantly. This is known as, say what? A cover-up. Let's cut to the chase. Also, when they began giving out money, the computer system was too old and broken to stop it. On top of that, Governor Gavin Newsom told EDD to approve everything. The system couldn't even do basic verification. As Adam Housley has reported, they're getting some, us, others in the media were reporting, hey, legitimate people are sitting on hold for 8 hours and they can't get their unemployment during the COVID con. Newsom said, I'm getting bad reports, just come in and approve everything. This is according to Adam Housley and his reports. That's what investigators said. On another system that was computers are too broken. We're spending $350 billion frickin' dollars a year on our budget, and we can't update the DMV computers, the computers at EDD, or anywhere else. The 911 system, we put in a new system, almost $1 billion, and it failed. They're scrapping it. When do we just start firing these MFers en masse? Even if there's a collateral damage of a few good government workers left, that's just the way it's going to have to be. We're frickin' tired of getting hosed every frickin' day. It's time for drastic action. We cannot tolerate this, else we will just lose everything. Will look worse in Mexico, Venezuela, and Cuba combined. You better get off your dead asses and start getting in the ball game before it's too late. We don't want to be too late. We may be too late. I don't know. We're ever increasingly closer getting to that point of no return. And that's a spot you don't want to be, because that's going to crash the whole damn system. And if you don't think it's that bad, or you think we're exaggerating, Adam Housley just put this on the X machine. For those with first-hand knowledge of the COVID fraud investigation, it's an absolute nightmare. All states have problems. Here comes that three-letter word. But California is the worst run and the worst system to stop the fraud. The worst. The numbers are massive. The money is flowing to crime syndicates in Mexico, Eastern Europe, and even to West Africa. That's from Adam Housley, whom we mentioned yesterday. We briefly mentioned it, and now, but he's putting out more of this. And that goes with the story that we just had in Chino. Dude, in his truck, loaded up with products to come to your door somewhere, computer products eventually is what they stole. Stopped at the red light for more than a minute. Here comes the thieves from, as the gentleman mentioned, from cartels and thieves from out of the country. Most of that 50 billion or whatever the number is of unemployment fraud that went out either to the other 49 states or out of the country. This is how stupid we are. And yet you have those screaming, oh, the poor people that came over here illegally. And it's just those rich, white, hillbilly, those cretins, Neanderthals, they just don't like him because their skin tone is a little bit more brown than theirs. You know what I got to say to y'all that make that argument? F you. And the town you rode in, because this stuff is getting flat frickin' ridiculous. We're turning our country, our state, our communities into hellholes over this crap. Joe Biden is the most evil president probably we ever had. Let in 30 million to be slaves, the 21st century slaves in the United States. That's how evil that SOB is, and everyone that supports you is just as evil as he is. You can wave your flags and do your little intimidating protests, but again, F you. And anybody that wants to defend that, please, if you want to defend the policies that are hijacking trucks right in the middle of Chino, that $50 billion went out of your family and your family's pockets and off of your table, and why gas is 50% higher in California, please come in here and defend it. Please. Have enough guts to defend your position. Because if your position is right, you should be able to wipe the floor with me or anyone else. So have some frickin' balls and come in and defend your position. If not, you're a bunch of cowards and liars, and you are the evil people that are suppressing the ones that are coming in. You don't think they're putting these guys up that stole the stuff out of the truck? They're saying, you know, if you don't do this, you're going back to Mexico or Venezuela or China or wherever. That is called a slave, and that's what you're supporting. Those of you that are hiring and paying them cash or less than a living wage, you're contributing to this just as much, and you're hiring because you can pay them substandard wages, which means you are interning them to slavery. It's about time we started dealing with the honest part of this situation. Just like when Trump said, are you standing with American citizens or are you standing with the illegal aliens? The United States of America is here to protect American citizens' interest first and foremost. Period. End of story. Chapter closed. This turmoil, and I'm putting it lightly, needs to stop. Will only stop if the majority of folks, as I said, you got to get off your dead ass and get in the frickin' ball game and get in their faces and tell them, no, not no, but hell no. You're not doing this. You're not destroying this country. You're not flushing our lives down the toilet. You're not stealing. No, zip, zada, nothing. LAPD officer arrested after allegedly skydiving while on disability leave. CBS LA, KCAL 9 report. Hopefully, here we go.
Charged by the DA's office tonight, accused of disability fraud. CBS LA assignment editor Mike Rogers at the desk now. And Mike, the DA's office accuses that officer of going skydiving while on disability.
Skydiving while on disability, Rutabaga. Those are the allegations against the LAPD's police officer 2 from 77th Division. Now, according to the LAPD, or I'm sorry, according to the DA's office, he went on disability in 2023 after injuring his elbow while on the job. But then look at this. These are pictures provided by the DA's office when he allegedly went skydiving several times at a skydiving place in Lake Elsinore. And this is him working out at a gym. Now, because of these things, the DA's office says they believe he was fraudulently collecting disability money as a result of his fraudulent or exaggerated claim, they say. They also say he has now been charged on 2 felony counts of insurance fraud as a result of their investigation. The LAPD also releasing information tonight, but not providing additional statement on the allegations here, but saying their department is the ones that initiated the investigation and then brought the DA's office into it. And again, he apparently, according to the DA's office, was skydiving multiple times in Lake Elsinore. At least one of those times was caught on video, or at least a picture that the DA's office shared with us. The case now goes through the adjudication process.
I mean, with all the cell phone cameras and you're monitored and Ring doorbell cameras and cameras at the stoplights and everything else, you're not getting away with stuff like this, dude. I mean, what makes you think you could be on disability? What? For 3 years? How do you be on disability for 3 years and you're doing this? Absolutely astonishing. Some of this stuff is just flat beyond belief. Some of the stuff we used to thought was crazy is absolutely tiddlywinks. Look at the Watergate hearings. It was a third-rate burglary. Doing some dirty tricks against the other side of the campaign or spying on whatever. Compared to what's been going on today, that's like a jaywalking ticket. And look, it got a president to frickin' resign. How far have our standards sunk in 50 plus years? Was that back in 72 when Nixon resigned in 74, I believe. Or was it 75? Well, it was during the 72 campaign, and then 73, the Watergate hearings broke out after Nixon's reelection. And the rest is history. Skydiving several times. Disability is another one of these. Absolutely fraudulent. Totally fraudulent. Parts. When I get to this is another one. Capital Annex, $1 billion on a new Capitol Hill building for the Assembly and Senate. We just finished building them a new one. It's only, a couple years old? Ashley Zavala's been on this trip, heading up the investigations. Here's your KCRA3 report.
Well, we have some new information now on that controversial, secretive California Capitol Annex project.
That's the construction of a new office building for lawmakers and the governor. Project leaders for years have been keeping taxpayers in the dark about the cost of this new building. It's expected to cost at least $1 billion. Our KCRA3 political director Ashley Zavala joins us with a new push for transparency. Ashley?
Lisa, well, nearly 3 months after promising to be more transparent, project leaders have yet to give an update on the cost of this project. They're also rejecting our repeated requests for an interview. At last check, more than 3 years ago, this was going to cost taxpayers $1.1 billion. But we broke the story back in 2024 that thousands of people, including project leaders, have signed non-disclosure agreements, legally agreeing to keep basic information about this project a secret. Well, a new bill at the state capitol filed last week could end the secrecy and force a very public conversation.
How much do you want to bet this bill gets buried faster than a dog putting in his freshly newly caught bone that he found?
Capitol Annex construction workers on lunch. Hi there. How's it going in there?
No comment.
Tight-lipped.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't talk. I don't want to get in trouble here.
Instructed to not say anything. Just checking to see how the construction's going.
Like any other job, I reckon.
Okay. I know you can't really share much, though, right? Have you all been told you can't share much?
I don't know.
We tried with them because we're still not getting much from project leaders. These workers, some state lawmakers, government officials, and thousands of others have signed non-disclosure agreements to keep basic information about the project a secret.
I think when you're going to spend over $1 billion, you need to have more transparency than this.
Assemblyman Josh Hoover filed a bill that would toss those secrecy agreements.
The bill would, in one part, obviously void any existing NDAs on the project, which in my opinion have been used to sort of shroud this project in secrecy, and a lot of people hiding behind those NDAs to block information coming out, even to legislators.
Hoover's bill would...
So there you see Josh Hoover, which we got on the show many times when he was chief of staff of Kevin Kiley. Now he's an assemblyman. In any semi-legitimate government, you wouldn't even have to have a bill with that. Like he said, I don't care, 100,000, 10,000, 1,000 to $1 billion, it doesn't matter. There should be transparency. You should know how if they're going to take money from you at the point of a gun, and then you should be able to know where those dollars are spent. If not, you're living in a tin-horn dictatorship. And again, the only reason they're doing this is because they don't want to answer questions from reporters like Ashley Zavala. That's why they're building a new one, new offices with tunnels and stuff, so they can go from the floor of the House and the Senate to their offices without being disturbed, without being asked a question. You know, you can stick all this transparency and all these other buzzwords right up your rear end, you bunch of lying sacks of crap. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then the poor construction workers are saying, well, we can't say anything. You know what? We're paying for your frickin' job, dude. You're not building nuclear weapons or anything on that. You're building an office building in the state of frickin' California for a bunch of crook, corrupt, criminal politicians.
40 seconds.
So let's cut to the crap and let us know what the hell is going on. As Jesse said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met KMET here in a few seconds. We'll pick up on more of this fraud and corruption and all this other noise that's going on. It's absolutely stunning. And maybe we'll start with the sex offender running for city council. Yes, only in California. Just more of the fun stuff we have to deal with on a daily basis. Makes life entertaining.
5 seconds. Here we go.
Day. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience in the OVP Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Man, check us out, subscribe, do all that good stuff on that. Started off with the absolutely stunning story in Chino. Truck pulls up at a stoplight. Thieves from out of the country, in a minute, break into the truck, steal $7,000 allegedly worth in computer products. In a minute, out of the country. Absolutely stunning story. LA cop on disability, what, for 3 years, allegedly. Skydiving multiple times in Lake Elsinore, working out. The amount of fraud we are putting up with. $1 billion plus. It's probably going to be closer to $2 billion. On brand new office buildings for the crooked and corrupt politicians, assembly members, and senators in the state of California. We just built them a new one. It's what, only 2 years old? Now they want to hide from reporters like Ashley Zavala, so they're spending, who knows? They budgeted $1.1 million. Now they're trying to cover up how much it's really going to cost. It's beyond. The criminality that goes on each and every day is beyond stunning. This story may take the cake. On top of that evil sex offender we're letting out of prison, that brutally raped 3 to 7-year-olds, multiples of them, and is getting let out. If we don't change some laws around this, nothing else, it really doesn't matter what we do. A sex offender is running for city council, a registered sex offender. Here's the ABC 30 report from up in Fresno. You.
Launched a Fresno City Council campaign to represent District 7, which includes Old Fig Garden, East Central Fresno, and parts of Southeast Fresno. He would join a crowded field vying for the seat when Councilman Nelson Esparza's term runs out. The controversial political hopeful spoke with Action News reporter Brisa Colon in his first television interview about the criminal past. He's not hiding.
Well, I believe Fresno deserves leaders that are honest from the very beginning, not the end. So going into this, I am putting my life out there.
Up front about his status as a registered sex offender, Rene Campos is not running from his past as he runs for office.
I've been given the chance to rehabilitate through the courts and back into the system.
Charged with being in possession of child sex abuse material back.
Do you believe this guy is rehabilitated? Do you believe that evil that they're just about ready to roll out, multiple child rapists who says, oh, well, you know, maybe I can control my desires. Holy crap. You know, I'm about freedom and liberty and everything else, but there are just certain things in any sane society you should not tolerate.
In 2018, the Fresno native says he pled no contest to a misdemeanor charge. Now launching his campaign to represent District 7 on the Fresno City Council. He says his focus is on safety.
So I say, let's choose somebody outside the box. Somebody who...
Choosing somebody outside the box. Choosing somebody outside the box is a phrase. Let's get some new thinking in. Let's maybe do something that's different. Let's not do the same thing over and over again. Not, hey, it's a good idea to put sex offenders on the city council.
Who knows the system from inside out. Because I've experienced the laws that we are trying to reform right now.
Fresno County Clerk and Registrar of Voters James Coos says state law does not prevent a registered sex offender from running for office.
Once you leave prison, you're on probation, you actually are allowed in California to reapply and become a registered voter again, which would then make you eligible to be able to run as long as you are living in the proper jurisdiction.
Campos looks to enter a growing field of people.
This is what we need to change. And I'm not necessarily saying this guy shouldn't be able to be registered to vote. He just should not be allowed to run for office. You know, if you have a felony conviction of embezzlement against a public agency, you can embezzle banks, you could embezzle from your friends and relatives or business. We've experienced that with LaDonna Jepson on the city council in Moreno Valley. That's fine. But if you embezzle from the government, well, you cannot run for office. You got felony convictions, it has to be from a public agency. But they granted that exception out of there. I'm not saying this cat shouldn't be allowed to vote. I mean, it was a misdemeanor no contest plea. But he shouldn't be allowed to run for office. I don't care, misdemeanor, what, sex offender, no. This is why elections count, elections matter. You need to get off your dead frickin' asses out there and start getting in the ball game before this stuff overwhelms us. This is absolute and incredible stupidity. Latest polling in the California governor's race. Again, we got Hilton, Katie Porter, Chad Biancos, Tom Steyer, Eric Swalwell, all basically in a dead heat from the latest PPIC poll that has been released. More and more and more as we go. And again, this is why I'm saying you've got to pay attention. We need to get Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco in the top 2. So it's starting to coalesce. Here's from the PPIC article. About 6 in 10 likely voters say they are satisfied with the choice of candidates in the governor's race. About half are not too closely following the news about the governor's race, while about 7 in 10 are interested in seeing town halls and debates with the candidates. So you're seeing, it isn't like they're saying, you know, we wanted Kamala Harris or whatever. "43% of adults and 47% of likely voters see the state budget situation as a likely problem." This is why I'm saying Steve and Chad could climb above that 40%. And this is why, and this is getting in the weeds a little bit, but you see 43% of adults, 47% of likely voters. In the June primary, you're going to have more of electorate that's going to be concerned about spending $350 billion in the California budget and the fraud and everything that's going to abuse. Newsom just walks in and says, give them $50 billion of your hard-earned money to people out of the state, out of the country, because I don't want Roy on iNewsWire, the other media outlets, putting people on that are waiting 8 hours every day of the week and they cannot get their money they were promised under the COVID con, for getting kicked out of work for nothing of their own fault. One in 3 Californians deem cost of living and inflation is the most important issue. Most Californians deem political extremism or threats to democracy. That's the other side. That's the Democrat kook left, which is about 50%. You're seeing you're starting to see closer to a 50-50 divide in California. The open primary, which will determine the top 2 candidates, and as you see, we'll get a better graphic here. We'll flash her up on here. Steve Hilton, 14, Katie Porter, 13, and she's locked in that. Chad Bianco at 12, Eric Swalwell at 11, Tom Steyer at 10. Then you got Baccaria, Villaraigosa, Betty Yee's climbing up to 5%. Matt Mahan's still on the bottom. Butch Ware is beating Tony Thurmond, and he's on the Green Party. He's got 2%. That's even good, because that's coming out of the 7 or more dwarfs. This stuff is looking, I'm telling you. If we get our act together, ever increasingly, we can get Steve and Chad in 1 and 2. And put a political earthquake like you've never seen in California. This is troubling. And this is kind of a weird dynamic, but 62% versus 36% prefer a Democratic candidate in the House races. This is why the top 2 is important, because that will tighten up substantially, because those, let's say, low propensity Democratic voters will not show up in November if it's Steve and Chad. They just won't even bother. Independents are still leaning almost in the same direction, a little less, but about 57 to 39% Democrat. Which is a little bit different, because they're almost splitting 50-50 on the governor's race. Of course, there's not going to be any ballot measures on there, but we've got the One's coming up in probably November, a $10 billion state housing bond. It's going to be very different. It looks like the, say, Prop 13 Act will be on, voter ID. It's 50-50 on the state bond. They haven't done, it's interesting they didn't pull the, say, Prop 13 and the voter ID, which would be one of that. Californians prefer paying lower taxes and having state government that provides fewer services. This is big. And it's almost evenly between all adults and likely voters. Even Democrats are about a third of Democrats are supporting this. Almost all Republicans, and it's 61-36 supporting this on independents. This is a key vote area. Almost 50-50 in Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's winning handily everywhere else, especially in Central and the Inland Empire. Orange and San Diego is a place we really got to peel back. Then we get to the budget. About half say health and human services is their biggest priority. A third say K through 12 public education. 37% or fewer say that prisons and corrections, 7%, higher education, 6%. After reading a short summary of the proposal, 6 in 10 California likely voters support Gavin Newsom's proposed budget over the next fiscal year. This is a wide partisan divide between Republicans and Democrats in the majority. And that's pretty much, you see the 60-40 Democrat-Republican split. They didn't tell them that they're spending $27,000 per student K through 12, which is 3 times higher than we were spending 12 years ago. PPIC didn't put that in. They just say, oh, spend more money on the children. People say, well, yes. They don't realize how they're getting ripped off. They're not being put the question accurately, I believe, in the PPIC poll. It's very, very, very interesting. They raise the state taxes on the wealthiest Californians. Again, so like the 60-40 split, Democrat-Republican. We'll see how that, see if it gets on the ballot and or how that runs. Majority of California adults and likely voters think things in the state are headed in the wrong direction. Actually, this is weird. Adults are 54%, likely voters only 52% in the wrong direction. When you're 54 and 52 in the wrong direction, this is about the same as last year. So nothing's really improved in the California situation in the eyes of most people in the last year. Cost of living, of course, comes up again as the most important issue the governor should deal with. 4 in 10 local economy believe it's going to be weaker now in 6 months than it is right now. Somewhat weaker. About 11%, about the same 49%. So it's relatively a 50-50 split. Of course, you see people think it's going in the wrong direction. 7 in 10 could feel their income is not keeping up with inflation because that's exactly what's happening. They approve of Newsom. more than the legislature, but he's only at 52%, close to his all-time lows in the PPIC poll. Then they get onto the hate Trump stuff and healthcare and a lot of other things that are going on. But there's a lot even in this latest PPIC poll that shows. But first, Steve and Chad got to practice the 11th commandment of Ronald Reagan and not criticize each other. In fact, there's got to be an infighting, got to stop. I've got people that like Steve, like Chad. I'm fine with either one. But I'm about winning most. And the only candidate Steve or Chad can beat is Steve and Chad. That's why top two is important. And then if it is, that's going to affect the down ballot races and the propositions and the Save Prop 13 and voter ID and put elections in the Congress and in your local areas in play that we're not, because the low propensity Democratic left voter is not going to want to show up. Carl DeMaio, again, they turned in 1.3 million signatures to put Save Prop 13 initiative on the November ballot. We heard from Susan Shelley yesterday, along with the 1.35 million that were turned in on voter ID. Another fraud investigation that broke yesterday was Alberto Calavaro, the Los Angeles Unified Crime Syndicate's superintendent, who was raided at his offices and homes in Los Angeles in Florida, where he left under auspicious circumstances of alleged financial misdealings, if I remember right. Jennifer Van Laar has uncovered and posted a lot on this in the last 24 hours. Seems to be where the focus is of the investigation, at least from the tracks that she's uncovering, seems to be this little AI chatbot that seems to be a fraudulent deal, Ed. Well, the person that was running it was convicted, it appears, of fraud for $10 million. Carvalho was around gallivanting all over the country promoting it, and then got a contract with LAUSD. And then once all $10 million was collected in donations and they sold to the crime syndicate at LA and others, once they collected the money, they went belly up. So it appears, again, the fraud investigations are coming left and right. And maybe not a moment too soon. We've got a lot of work in front of us. Senator Suzette Valladares, along with her Republican colleagues, are calling on the governor to remove the parole commissioners who voted for the release of child rapist David Allen Funston. Californians deserve a parole process grounded in sound judgment, unwavering accountability, and commitment to victim safety. Yeah, let's get it. The only way we're getting this done, first, get Steve and Chad in the top two, demoralize the Democrats, then get more center-right freedom and liberty types up in the state legislature, at least get it knocked down to where they don't have 75% supermajority. At least get it down below the 2/3 where they can't override any veto. which means we got to pick up 7 seats in the Assembly, 4 in the state Senate districts. There's a lot riding on the June primary, and the top 2 win in June, the Roy strategy. But if it's going to come to fruition, we got about 3 months to dig our heels in and make it happen. They held a press conference today. Maybe we'll get more into it tomorrow on Friday. But our own state senator out here in Moreno Valley, Riverside, Sabrina Cervantes, joined with Tom Umberg in trying to strengthen voters voting for illegal aliens in California, so they can keep them in servitude with their slave-ridden policies of keeping them under their control and thumb and under the cartels from Mexico to China and everything else that's been going on, so they can steal money fraudulently out of your pocket and give it to the cartels and foreign governments that are running these operations. And it's just a guess, but I bet you there's a bunch of nice brown paper sacks show up at Gavin Newsom's, Tom Umberg, and Sabrina Cervantes' houses. And who knows what might be in those brown paper sacks. Justin Jackson was, again, we said, appointed to the Moreno Valley Unified Crime Syndicate to fill out the seat of resigned C.J. Johnson, which that seat will be up along with Sammy Luna's and Brandy Clark's in that, so he'll be rerunning along with those two. That's another one. We're going to have an update on the Moreno Valley Mall and its closure and all the stuff that's going on with that. That'll be happening right after the show, so if you're in Mo Valley, you still got a chance to either tune in or come down and roll in some public comments. We'll see what that disaster, or see what it is. See how we can avoid a disaster, which is going to be very difficult given the hands of government is in this, and with their track record, past history's best indication of future behavior. Man, it's all a wild ride. Hopefully people are going to get it into gear. We got about a 3-month push to make this happen in California. Don't be sitting on your lead asses anymore. Get out there and get in the ball game. Or you're going to see this thing swirling ever further down the toilet bowl, and I guarantee you, you're not going to like the results. And after the fact is 98.7% of the time always too late. That'll do it for today. We usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours wide, and the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right, have a great night.
You got it. We'll see you.
Yep.